Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a review and a bit of a discussion on Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This was a reread for me, so even though I kind of remembered like the overall storyline after I got into it a little bit, there were still things that really shocked me. So if I had to pick one word to describe this book, I would describe it as unexpected and as a happy coincidence as well. This turns out to be one of the books that I have to read for one of my uni classes next semester, so that's convenient. So this story follows Jane from when she is a child. She's an orphan of about like 9 or 10 years old, living with a really horrible aunt. That whole section of the book, it's just in the very beginning, it totally gave me Harry Potter before he found out he was a wizard, like those kind of vibes, because Jane is in like a kind of a similar situation. It then follows her onto boarding school and then onto a place eventually called Thornfield Park, and that's where most of the story takes place. And by that time she's about 19 years old or so. It's kind of a gothic novel as well, so there are some things in it that are really creepy, and I thought those parts of it was so cool. It was done really well and it really creeped me out, which was awesome. There's things like ghosts and really disturbing dreams and fortune tellers, and the whole fortune telling scene, if you've read this book, totally blew my mind. Like, it absolutely shocked me completely. With this book as well, since I just recently reread Pride and Prejudice, I kind of like put this book in that kind of boat. Like, I thought it would be kind of similar, as in it would be all about society and a really like dashing romantic interest and stuff, and that couldn't really be further from what this book actually is. It kind of has elements of that in it just because it's set in the same sort of time period, but it's not really the same at all. Jane, I thought, was a really fantastic, strong female character, and as a protagonist I found her really great. The whole book is told in first person from her point of view, which was cool. She has her faults as well, like there's aspects of her personality and stuff and things she would like think and say and do that I didn't really like, but I think that did make her more realistic as a character. She was a really like believable, like you'd think a human like that would exist. There are a few really great observations that Jane makes about the world, and I think, well, firstly, the writing is really beautiful. There were so many parts that were quotes that I really love. But in particular, Jane is just like very in tune to like being able to see people's true intentions, I guess, and the way she looked at some women and how they were really like passive aggressive towards one another was really clever, and not something I would expect from a book from this time period. She's also described as a really plain looking person throughout the novel, and not in a way where she was being like modest and everything and then meanwhile like all of the men are falling at her feet or something. It was something that was like meant to be like a genuine truth, like other characters would say that about her as well. I really liked that, because I just think it confirms that beauty isn't everything. You know, it's not only those kind of people that have an interesting story to tell, like the ordinary people have that too, so I liked that about it. And then speaking along the same lines, there is the character of Mr. Rochester, who is kind of the love interest, I guess. On occasion throughout this book, he's described like outright, straight up, as an ugly man, and he's also very like weird and eccentric, and that's not at all what I expected, because for some reason the words Mr. Rochester, and I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but every time I see those two words, it gives like romantic connotations, I just think, because he's such a famous character. Yeah, it's so interesting because that's not really what his character's like at all, and I myself didn't really feel any connection to his character. Like, if I was Jane, he would have driven me absolutely crazy and I wouldn't have liked him at all, but seeing it from Jane's point of view, I could see why the two of them might work together. So yeah, it honestly really impressed me in that way, because I feel like most stories where there's a bit of a love interest or anything, you have to be personally invested in it and you have to like that person for yourself as well, kind of. I just wanted to know what was happening with her in the same way that you'd want to know it about a friend, but you don't necessarily wish that it was all happening to you, if that makes sense. And usually with a book that would be a bad thing for me, but for this one it really worked and I really enjoyed that. The pacing did feel a little bit slow for me, but I think there's a few different reasons that contribute to that. The first one is that this book takes place over a period of more than 10 years, I think, so that always slows the pacing down for me. Also, the fact that this was a reread, as I was reading, I things would start to come back to me, so I'd remember things that had happened in the book from the last time I read it, and then I was kind of waiting for those things to happen, so that made it feel slower as well, because it took longer to get to those parts that I did remember. And then also the fact that this tiny little book is deceptively long. It's like over 600 pages, which is a lot longer than it looks like, and people kept joking that they thought I was reading a Bible, because that's kind of what this looks like. Overall, I would totally recommend this if you're looking for a classic that's a bit out there and eccentric, a little bit creepy, a little bit romantic, but just really, really weird and surprising and bizarre. Would recommend. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Let me know if you've read it, what you thought in the comments down below. I know for a lot of people this is like their all-time favorite book, and it's definitely up there for me as well. I really, really enjoyed rereading it. If you haven't read it but you think you'll pick it up, let me know that as well. And I'll see you guys with another video in a couple days. Bye.